You want more on the Avs? You got it.
Honestly, does it really matter right now?
That's the problem, right?
No, just about anybody can get in front of a microphone and talk about hockey. How on earth do you get involved in something like this?
It was kind of a fluke.
It's funny that this podcast is going off the rails so quickly.
This is From the Cheap Seats, an Avalanche fan podcast from 9 News. Seated in the conference room, here are your hosts, Steve Staeger and Geoff Sawtell.
It's about damn time that we are back. As I was saying in the last episode of From the Cheap Seats, the Avs are going to do fine. Little did I know that there would be a pandemic in the middle of everything that would literally stop things dead in its tracks. That Geoff and I would stop producing podcasts because we could not think of a way to legitimately do this the right way. Until now, when hockey's
we'll see
back.
If this is legit or not.
Yeah, it may not work for all we know. Welcome in From the Cheap Seats, broadcasting live from the spare bedroom inside my house. Well, we're not broadcasting live. We're broadcasting to tape from the spare bedroom in my house. And Geoff, your kitchen table, is that where you are?
Kitchen table in the background, the kitchen further in the background.
There you go.
We were out of beer cans over my head. Yeah, we thought we had cheap seats before.
You're not a bachelor, are you?
No, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Beer cans on the chandelier?
You know.
I have a giant Avalanche cat behind me. And this
we each have our own things going.
Yeah. I mean, for those listening to the audio version of this, they're probably done, but I can describe it for you to the best of my ability. I volunteer and do an event every couple of years for a charity that helps cats. It's the Cat Care Society, and they do a Tales of the Painted Cats every year. And I've done it for them twice now. Going to do it for them in a couple of years moving forward, where they auction off these beautiful, they give artists these cats, and they paint, that the artists paint them and turn them into something cool and make a piece of art out of it. And somebody made this one into an Avalanche cat, and they said, it's yours. Because they were having trouble, which is sad, but they were having trouble. I think the person who ended up getting it wanted to give it as a gift, which was very sweet and very nice. And I cannot thank them enough. So his name is Catrick Paw, which is pretty phenomenal. And he's in my house. And since I don't know what to do with artwork, I just have Catrick Paw all over the place. He usually sits next to my new workbench in the basement, but I thought I'd bring him up here for the taping of.
And I feel like, again, for the people who are just listening to the audio, the description, this is not like a little figurine of a cat. This thing is like 2.5 feet tall.
I think it's tall. I think it's 3 feet. I think it's a yardstick tall. And we tried to bring it in to put it into the promo when we shot the promo for this podcast, which stopped airing. Surprise, surprise. It aired enough.
Suddenly other things mattered.
You remember, I went back and listened to a show right before the pandemic, since I don't remember anything that happened this year. And we were talking about the fact that at Pepsi Center, there was somebody saying, hey, you're from that thing about the Avalanche. And I'm like, oh, you listened to the show? He goes, no, I just see the commercial nonstop when I'm watching 9 News. Like that
like ran into a wall and stopped instantly as soon as
it was. I blame that for our bad luck that we haven't been able to do this show for so long. Is that people just got sick of it, and that was part of the reason why. Well, it's good to have you along. Avalanche hockey is back. We're taping this on Friday morning after the second of 3 round robin games where the Avs are fighting for seeding, and they had to fight pretty hard in the first game. Didn't have to fight too hard against the Dallas Stars for a 4-0 win. But the Avs won against the St. Louis Blues, arguably the toughest team in the Western Conference. They won in legitimately the last 10th of a second as Nazem Kadri pokes in a goal in one of the most exciting hockey moments I think I've ever witnessed. Hands down.
Hands down. Yeah.
Watching that happen and watching the refs try to figure out if it was in time. And then if anyone's seen the photo that exists of this, Nazem Kadri in the crease, kind of smiling as he's watching the puck cross the line, and you could see the clock behind him. This photo is from inside the goal crease, one of the coolest photos I've ever seen. The guy who took it, Dave Sandford, is an NHL photographer, and we're going to talk to him in just a little bit about how he captured that image, which is incredible.
I think a lot of people don't realize that these photographers like have to curl up in the back of the net. And
yeah, there's just a guy in the back of the net. No,
he's so good you never see him.
He has some incredible remote technology that helped him accomplish this, and he's going to tell us about that and life inside the bubble in Edmonton in just a little bit. But it's exciting to see that hockey is back, and I feel like this team picked up where it left off, although they left off with a win. It was a win, right? The New York Rangers game. Was that the Rangers?
Been so long. I honestly don't remember.
I think it was. All I remember is that you and I. Let's go back to March, since it's been a couple of months since. That's the little flashback
Wings
noise.
World flashback.
Because I feel like we taped a show, and then we went to a game. And then we were thinking about going to another game, but this was also the week that kind of the world stopped. Do you remember that?
We had a whole discussion about, we'd been talking on air about avoid large crowds. So is that something we should be going to? And that ended up being the last game before everything just stopped.
So we decided not to go to that Rangers game, and we were deciding whether or not to go to a couple games later that week. But I remember sitting at home, because I think it was the day after the NBA, because the Nuggets were legitimately playing the last basketball game ever played, and it was on ESPN. And I just remember, because Katie and her sister went somewhere on an errand, and I was sitting here at home, and in the span of 30 minutes, the entire world just changed, because it was back when Rudy Gobert from the NBA, he was diagnosed with COVID. He got his test back, and they legitimately stopped a game before it even started.
That's right.
And then all of a sudden the NBA canceled its entire season while the Nuggets are still on the basketball court. And then I remember flipping over, and I think Tom Hanks announced that he had COVID and was stuck in, and it was like all of this happened in a matter of 30 minutes. And Katie and her sister left, and then they came back to the house, and I said, "Do you guys know what's going on?" And they had no idea. And informing them, they were like, "This all happened in the last 20 minutes?" It did. This was something. But then I distinctly remember the next night, and you and I were having that debate about whether or not we go to the Rangers game. And the NHL decided to let it go. They decided to let it happen. And I remember thinking, if I'm trying to avoid large crowds, I don't know how I do that at Pepsi Center. Because when you're in your seat, it works, I guess. You could be far enough away, especially where we sit. That section doesn't tend to fill up all the time. But then I saw the altitude video of people going down those escalators between the club level, or between the third level and the first level of Pepsi Center. And I thought, that's the problem.
Yeah. There's no way you can avoid that. I mean, you come in the side door and it's still going to be crowded on that side. I mean, you can't avoid it in those big communal areas.
So I'm glad we made that decision. Then the day after, the NHL decided to call it quits. Not call it quits, I should say, pause the season. They made sure to pause it to make sure that many of us didn't get a refund for months. But it took forever. It took a long time. That took a long time to get money back for that.
Yeah.
In fact, I just paid you your remaining portion of it, because I just got the check. It took 8 weeks for them to process it after they decided to give people their money back.
And in their defense, they're actually still a little bit ahead, because I have yet to get a refund from the Rockies for the Larry Walker jersey retirement against the Cardinals, which clearly isn't happening this year. They have canceled that series, and I still haven't gotten a refund for that one. So the Avs are ahead of some other sports here.
They are. I am kind of curious. So I keep seeing on TV during these games that they say, like, hey, guys, memberships are available for next season. And how is that going to work? Because you and I have already paid for our tickets.
Yeah.
I don't know how that's going to work, because I don't know that a crowd that size is going to be allowed for the rest of the year.
Yeah. You have to think that they've discussed this at the league level and have some sort of fallback plan, if nothing else. But yeah, they sure haven't told us what that is.
Yeah. My ticket broker told me that that they are forming some sort of task force to try to figure this out. But you take some seats out of Pepsi Center, yeah, you could space people out, but the problem still becomes, how do you get people in and out the door?
And do you assign arrival times? Like, if you're in this section, show up at this time?
Maybe.
And how do you enforce that, though?
I mean, they got a big enough.
You get stuck in traffic, you show up 10 minutes late, do they not let you in because you missed your window? I mean, I don't know how you do this.
I don't know. They've got a big enough parking lot that they could probably do the 6 feet between people who are standing in line. But then once you get in the building, I don't know.
I just don't see how you could enforce. Like, it's the honor system at that point. You ask people to keep their distance, but if they don't, I don't see what you can do.
I don't know. I just think it's going to be interesting. Also, when does the season start? Because they're not anticipating this playoffs to be over until at least October.
Yeah, when the season would start.
So is it going to be a short season? I mean, it's going to take them a long time to catch up from what has happened.
Yeah. You start next season in December, and then every season for the next few years, you shift it a little bit earlier and lose a little bit of that break after the year just to slowly catch up. Yeah, and this is going to linger.
I like that we start talking about the problem that exists, because we don't have any problems in hockey to talk about right now, because that team looks better than it has in years. Coming out in that game against the St. Louis Blues, they pressed pretty hard. I mean, it was a very close game. It was a very tough game, but you were getting help from all of the lines. You've got, I'm trying to think who scored the first. Ryan Graves fans on a shot and then scores in the first. It beats Jordan Binnington, which is a huge accomplishment.
Yeah.
Kadri scores. I mean, that game looked great. And then you see them come out on Wednesday and take on the Dallas Stars and just completely outplay them for 60 minutes.
Dallas, has not been this offensive juggernaut this year, but they are tough to score goals against. I mean, their goaltending and their defense is how they got into the playoffs.
I wonder.
To hit them for 4 is impressive.
I do have to wonder if Ben Bishop had been in net yesterday, if that might not have been as simple as it was to score.
Oh, I'm sure. Because, like you said, they just outplayed him in that game. I mean, they earned it.
Khudobin did look really frustrated throughout the course of the game. Partially because I don't think he was getting a lot of defensive assistance. I mean, it was just an onslaught. But if anyone was worried about the Avalanche, the fact that they had the biggest problem going into the break was injury trouble. And that was resolved by this pandemic because everybody had a chance to rest up. I mean, remember, McKinnon did not play in that game against New York.
You're
at
right.
the end of the season.
You're right.
And wasn't Mikko was out.
He was out for a while.
Kadri was out.
Yeah.
I mean, they were banged up at the end of the season.
Yeah, because that last show or two, we spent a lot of time talking about, we're hyping up the depth this team had this year, and we're finally getting to see can it carry the weight. And they did, but it's nice not having to go to the playoffs like that.
Though I will point out, I mean, depth played to their favor against the Dallas Stars. Other than Cale Makar, what was I know Nichushkin,
Burakovsky, Nemeshnikov, and Nichushkin.
Nichushkin scored.
Yeah.
I can't remember if it was him. I knew Burakovsky and Nemeshnikov, but I did not know because I was doing a show yesterday during the game. All I know is that
according to my high-end radio listening, I believe it was.
The choo-choo train. But that was basically a show of their depth. Because you got to think about it, during the playoffs, everybody's going to be focused on Nathan MacKinnon.
Yeah. Well, and he still led the team in shots. I mean, it's not like he was getting stifled. It just wasn't going in that day. But yeah, we've got that scoring depth that he can have games like that, and it doesn't sink us.
I don't know. It's looking really good. Yeah. And I don't want to jinx anything, and I don't mean to. Knock on. I actually have wood to knock on. But Jeff thought someone was at his front door.
Right back.
But the hockey that is being played right now is pretty spectacular.
Yeah.
We should talk about the goaltending.
I was about to say, we haven't even touched on that yet.
And who starts? Because Philip Grubauer played a pretty great game against St. Louis, only let one in that I'm not sure you ever could have stopped.
Yeah.
But Pavel Francouz looked phenomenal.
Yeah.
And if that's the kind of problem you have, I mean, you've got Gruby who helped you out significantly during the playoffs last year and has that playoff experience now 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
Do you start him and then just know you've got a stud backing him up?
I feel like that's almost how you got to go. I mean, he's your starter. That's what you brought him in to be. And until he gives you a reason not to, I think you approach it as he's your guy, and you feel really confident that if he struggles or if he gets hurt, then you've got someone who's capable of coming in and stealing games for you.
See, I thought he looked a little clunky during the exhibition game, the Minnesota game. And I remember texting you that.
Yeah.
And I was nervous because I'm like, oh, man, can't have Grubauer playing like this. But then he came out in that St. Louis game, and it was like a different beast.
And I feel like there were a couple people who were kind of, shaking some rust off in that exhibition game, which is why you have it. You can do these team practices, and that's one thing, but it's not the same as getting out there against another team. So having that chance to figure the chemistry out, get your legs back under you, I think did wonders for him. And who knows? I mean, once the games actually matter, something clicks for you.
It's been exciting to watch, and it's just, I cannot tell you what a saving grace it is to have hockey back. I have spent so much time over the last couple of weeks just watching games that I probably never would have watched before. I've been watching the Chicago Edmonton series quite a bit. I watched very excitedly last night as the Montreal Canadiens beat the Pittsburgh Penguins with the most beautiful last-second goal I've seen in a while, where Petrie just kind of tucked it over right next to the left ear of the goaltender, right ear of the goaltender. I mean, it was something.
Second best last-minute goal you've seen in a while.
Yeah, second best. Yes, I should say. I mean, it wasn't a last-minute goal. I'm talking about game winner. As a game winner, to have a goal that pretty where you could tuck it up high. I mean, it was gorgeous. But and I don't know why, but I feel like I'd really like to see Montreal do something in this playoffs, just probably because we were there.
It's just one of those classic Canadian teams. Like, it's hard to root against them.
Yeah.
Unless you're playing.
Their sweaters are spectacular.
I mean, they're just gorgeous.
Yeah. We also did not get into the other news. So it's been light. Let me just give you a little background. It's been light on news, and that's part of the reason why we were like, do we do a show? Do we not do a show until hockey's back? The other big development over the course of the break is NHL making its announcement that it will be the Seattle Kraken, which I love.
Oh, it's spectacular.
It's a great name. And there are a lot of people out there who are saying no, because it's going to be called the Crack House, and they're going to be called Crack. Like, there are going to be a bunch of easy ways to mock this team. But the fact that you embraced something so fan beloved is great.
Yeah. Oh,
the sweaters look phenomenal.
Yeah. I love the logo, like the inside line on the S, if you look closely, is like a tentacle with like suckers on it.
Yeah.
The detail they put into it's great.
And an old friend of the show, Grant Beery, who I believe lives there now, said something about how if you look closely, there's a pigeon inside the logo, which was another fan favorite, which, by the way, if that's a fan favorite, you're going to name your team the Pigeons?
Yeah, if you're on the Pigeons side, you can't complain about the name Kraken.
Yeah, at least a Kraken can do some damage. But a pigeon?
Large numbers, I mean, yeah.
Maybe. But it's a cool logo. I'd love to hear from you what you think of it out there. I posted a little poll, and it was like half and half who didn't like it on my Instagram, which I'm trying to get more into the gram. Less on the Twitter and more in the gram.
I was about to say, I missed that poll a while ago. Yeah, I keep forgetting to check Instagram.
So coming up here in just a second, we're going to talk to Dave Sandford, who is the photographer who took that amazing photo, perhaps you've seen on Twitter, of Nazem Kadri scoring that last-minute goal. And then I thought about it. So since we're doing this weird way through Zoom now, I thought we would try, for our last segment, I'm going to post a link on Twitter and see if anybody wants to join the show. So it's basically like doing a radio show without a call screener. So we're going to try it for the last segment of the show. And I think we've both agreed in full transparency that if it doesn't work and just a bunch of QAnon conspiracy theorists jump on here to yell at us and call for my tribunal, that we'll just blow it away and just do our own last segment. So if you're listening at this point and you don't hear a bunch of randos at the end of the show here, that is because it did not go well. But hopefully we'll get some Avs fans who can talk to us. But in the meantime, we're going to talk to Dave Sandford next.
Coloradans are passionate about Colorado, and at 9 News, we love to hear all about it. Call, email, or find us on social media. 9 News listens.
The game the other night against the St. Louis Blues, Nazem Kadri scores with 0.1 second left on the clock. And there was some worry that we weren't going to get a good image of that because the camera above the net shows the puck kind of cometing into the goal. And is it good? Is it not? We end up getting the best image of that goal ever. And it's from a photographer named Dave Sandford, who is inside Edmonton and joins us now on From the Cheap Seat. Dave, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
So take me through the mechanics of how you capture a photo like that.
It begins with a horseshoe and ends with a great photo. It's the camera that sits in the back of the net. It's a digital SLR, and I go in pregame. I set the camera up, pre-focus it, get all the settings so they're correct and everything. It's attached to a Pocket Wizard, which is a transmitting receiving device, and that sits inside of a housing which goes into the back of the net, and the housing clamps down bottom middle of the net, and then I'm sitting 200 feet away at the opposite end of the rink. That's just usually what I like to do to maximize my shooting coverage, is cover the one zone that I'm in. I can still shoot down ice with a long lens and then have that camera in the opposite net. So it's a matter of, and then I have a transmitter that sits on the boards beside me, and I have a cord that goes off of that, which I trigger, and that's when the camera fires, hopefully, when technology works. And thankfully, technology was on my side this day, and everything fired, because there's oftentimes, like yesterday, there was 2 goals in the games yesterday, for example. I was really looking forward to seeing the images at the end of the period. Unfortunately, they didn't exist because the camera it failed to fire. So the other factor in it is when I went out to retrieve the card after the Avs game that day, is I was just like praying that there was no water across the face of the net cam from melted snow with guys stopping and everything, because that's another killer of images as well. And thankfully, the stars aligned on that day. The goal wasn't called back, because when something like that happens, a moment like that, I'm like, You know, you just want the play to stand. Obviously you guys do, being abs, you know.
We were really hoping that it would stand.
Yeah. So you want the play to stand, and then it was no snow and water covering the face of it, and then that it obviously fired, and that you have the moment. So all the stars aligned on this day to create that image. But yeah, I'm sitting 200 feet away, triggering it just by looking down ice 200 feet. So you got to kind of concentrate on what's happening, and as I say, have a little bit of luck on your side as well at the same time.
So are you shooting with your long lens at the same time and thinking like, and you've got the clicker in your other hand and you're kind of just doing this?
Sometimes, yeah, you're correct. Sometimes I literally tape a trigger to the front of the camera. So I've got, this is my main trigger finger on my body that I'm using, and then right in front of it there's a trigger tape, so I can do both or one or the other. However, I've chosen this week, there's just so much going on, and doing 3 games a day, it's exhausting and a little bit mentally challenging and draining. So you make little mistakes. So I'm like trying to simplify things. So for that, I'm just looking down ice, and I'm, you know, using my own eyes and just hitting that one trigger. Because sometimes I think when you try to do too much, you're not as effective. Sometimes less is more, and this is one of those cases where it for sure proved to be, you know, the right decision to concentrate on that. Because from where my position would be, I'd basically, you know, I'd have the back of Kadri and kind of a wide gaping net, so it wouldn't have been as an impactful photo as from the net. So just concentrate on one thing for now. I'm working with another guy, Andy Devlin, who is the Oilers team photographer, and Andy's at that end of the rink as well. So it's one of those things, knowing we've got it covered at both ends, you know. And
how pissed was Andy when he figured out that you from 200 feet away got the better shot than he did when he's standing right there?
Well, he's a great team player, so he was really stoked for me. Like the first thing he said to me when he looked at me was just like, "You got it," you know, like. And he had a really nice Jubo, you know, image. Like I've seen it used in a lot of places as well. Basically, you know, his shot of the goal wasn't as obviously dynamic as what I had, but his celebration stuff was nice because he faced him in that corner. So. So we kind of, between the two of us, I think we covered it quite nicely with the goal and the celebration.
So how often do you end up like getting everything set up, doing all the pregame adjustments, and then find out after the game when you get that card back that, yeah, like you said, someone sprayed snow on it 5 minutes in and you've lost a whole series that you were hoping to get?
Well, that's the nice thing with the long glass, the long lenses. I can look down ice and see that if it's been snow, you know, and if you're paying attention, you know, sometimes you miss it, but oftentimes you'll see you guys stop in front of the net. You think, oh crap. So focus on it down ice, and you can zoom in and have a look to see if it is covered with water drops or snow or whatever. The crew here in Edmonton are awesome. As long as you have a goaltender who is cooperative enough to leave his crease during the TV timeouts. The crew here has been wiping it down during those TV timeouts, which has been awesome, because not every crew does that for you all the time. So the crew here in Edmonton, the ice crew, have been great about that. So I thank them all after, because it's like, you guys saved my bacon because it was covered before. So.
Do you get to go out and make adjustments at any point, or is it just it's there and you cannot touch it for the rest of from point A in the morning to point B at night?
No. I mean, it's basically like I can go out during intermissions and everything. So pregame and intermission, and sometimes, yeah, I may think that everything looks fine, it's level centered, and I'll have a couple, you know, pull the card, say at the end of the first intermission, and then put it in the computer and realize, oh, I'm off kilter a little or something. So I can run back out and recenter it type thing. And yeah, I actually thought I was going to get called out into the ice yesterday at the end of the Arizona Nashville game. because Taylor Hall scored a goal, which it looked much more dramatic than it was on television because it was a direct hit on my net cam. And it looked like it blew up. So the officials called me over to the ZAM gate and they're like, what do we do? You know, and I'm like, there's just a big butterfly knob on a clamp that goes at the bottom. But the puck hit, I got a nice photo of the goal and everything. And the face of the net cam, which is made of Lexan, it's made it did what it's supposed to do. So the puck hit, it's curved, it's a separate piece. So the puck hit, ricocheted out, so frame 1, the puck's fairly big in the net. Frame 2, the face of the Lexan is cracked in half and in the air. And then the puck is already on the way out of the net. It's actually out of the net. And it shoots 12 frames a second. So it tells you how fast it happens. And then right as soon as I heard it, 200 feet away in a pretty quiet arena without 20,000 fans, as soon as I heard it, I knew, I was like, uh-oh. And generally, lenses can get destroyed, even though, the box itself, the NetCam box, it's something that I came up with, a design that it protects your camera, but at the same time, you have to protect the players. It's got to be something where if a player goes into it, as was put to me about 20 years ago, our $10 million player is worth way more than your $10,000 camera. So we need something that protects the players, but also protects, has give type thing, and will protect, the camera as well to a certain degree. So I've lost cameras and lenses over the years. So yesterday, after Hull's shot, I thought for sure I'd lost it or lost a lens. But thankfully, the design that I made did what it's supposed to do because it's curved. It absorbs that shock and then ricochets the puck out. So it's just the face of a $10 piece of Lexan that broke, and everything inside was fine.
I got to ask you, when it's your baby that's in there, that's your camera, and when they say our $10 million player and my $10,000 baby, that still is your baby. Exactly. Would they reimburse you? Should because you're a freelancer kind of, right? You're not really working for an organization. You're
I'm a contract employee of the league. Correct.
Yeah. Would Gary Bettman say hey, sorry, here's a new camera for you, or how does that work?
I wish. I actually jokingly said to my boss yesterday, I was like, maybe we could get the Players Association to work it in. So if a player actually shoots the puck, breaks the net cam, that it comes out of the players' fund.
I'm guessing that would go over really well with this Players Association.
Hey, well, when the guys see a great picture like that, they want it. So, I mean, if the net cam's not in there, and I, can't afford to get a new camera to put in.
So has Kadri reached out to you?
I haven't seen him personally myself, and I haven't spoken to him but one of the producers with NHL Studios who knows him as well, he showed me a message from him saying that he loved the shot and he wanted to get a copy of it. He wanted a print to be able to put on his wall. So, I
was going to say that has to be somewhere on his wall. In fact, I think that shot will probably be up in Pepsi Center somewhere or in the organ. I mean, because that's going to be one of the more memorable moments in Avs history. I've got to ask you, how'd you get into this? You said 20 years now you've been doing this?
Yeah, I've been shooting NHL hockey 27 years now, 24 years for the league. Since I was young, I started photography at the age of 9 and through high school and stuff. If I wasn't playing a sport, I was shooting the other sports. And university, I went to Ryerson in Toronto, and that gave me, amazing opportunities because it was sort of hard work and the timing. One of my profs was a sports photographer who was good friends with the old Leafs team photographer. So he got me a job assisting him throughout university. And at the same time, I volunteered first year at the Hall of Fame. That led to an internship, which they gave me in second year, and I held that for 3 years. So by the time I was done university, I shot 125 NHL games and had a fair bit of experience, and then Doug McClellan, the photographer I interned under at the Hall, he retired from shooting hockey back then, literally days before the 97 season. And the Hall called me and said, we want to hire you. So right spot, right time, after putting in a bunch of hard work. And I started working for them, and later that season, the NHL came to me, and that was the first year they had formed NHL Images and said, we've seen what you've been doing, and the rest is history. I've been working for them ever since. So been very grateful. It's nice, obviously, to be, working for the league, and the opportunities that I've had over the years and the places that it's taken me. It's been phenomenal.
Yeah, it seems like you said, you put a lot of work into this. You got a lot of repetitions even before you got the big offers. But it seems like this is one of those things that it really is a lot of who you know, and just like you said, being in the right place at the right time. Yeah,
for sure. Like sports photography is one of those things where I think you've got to be good to just like the pros, to be shooting at the pro level. So you've got to be doing something right. And I think you always have to keep pushing yourself and improving, because there's a million people that want your job. Like if I were to leave or step out or whatever, there's, like I say, there's a million people behind me that would have the talent, that have the skill, that would love to be doing it. So you sort of have to make breaks for yourself, I think, as best you can. And that's what I did back in university. Like, yes, I was shooting NHL hockey legitimately, but I was also making fake passes to go into Maple Leaf Gardens back when I was in my early 20s. Because back in the day, it was literally a sticker with a Sharpie, So if you had a scanner and a Sharpie,
you were in good shape.
So, and it was, like I say, it was one of those things back then. I was there on a legit pass quite often. So I would, I looked like I belonged, and, I fit in. So I created these opportunities, and in university too, I shot all the university hockey. I strobe lit it, like dragging these big, power packs and lights across the city of Toronto on a subway on a Friday night when everybody else was going out, and I'm going in 3 hours before a hockey game to set up my lighting and then shoot the game and then break it down and get back at 1 a.m. But that paid off, because it was shooting those games that got the Hall of Fame to take note of what I was doing. And I kind of stood out. So I have no regrets for any of that stuff. As I say, it was hard work that created my opportunities. And I think that I still, like I say, you still have to stay on top of things. So whether it's trying to keep up with technology and just keep pushing yourself to be as creative as possible.
Let that be a lesson to the young folks out there today, because I don't know if that work ethic exists anymore, but that's a topic for another podcast. I think a lot of us had to work and do the overnight jobs where you're not hanging out with friends to get to the level you want to be at. But I should stop with my old man rant. I've already taken you well over the 10 minutes I was supposed to do with you here, but I've got one more. I've got to ask you about the bubble, what it's like, what bubble life is like there. I know you're one of the only photographers. I think you and the Edmonton photographer are the only photographers who are there right now. What's it like? Because those of us who are on the outside have no idea.
It's it's fine. It's totally fine. And at the same time, it's really weird and surreal. It's got like I've done a few Olympic games, and it has a bit of an Olympic vibe to it, because you have all these athletes and the people that are here working and everything kind of in one spot. And with the fencing set up and everything, it again has that feel. Like yesterday morning, walking into the arena, first game in the East was on, and in our area, we've kind of dubbed it the yard, because it's our outdoor area and we've got basketball court set up, and so hence the yard. And we're kind of fenced in here. So anyhow, nice area outside the arena, and it was packed with, everybody sitting at the tables and different things, because they have food trucks and coffee out there, and there's the big screen on the outside of Rogers Place. So guys were all gathered, you know, having their morning coffee, watching the game back east. And I'm walking in to go shoot a playoff game, you know, in a couple of hours. And I'm like, it just goes through your head. Like, this is so weird, you know, like here's all these players and coaches and GMs and NHL staff and team staff from all these different teams all sitting out here, you know, having a coffee and watching a game on a big screen on a beautiful summer morning, you know, like it's those kind of things. And like I say, even little simple things of walking down the hallway where the locker rooms are, and you've got 6 locker rooms and there's 6 different clubs occupying them at all times. And like last night, the Oilers are playing on their home ice, but it wasn't their home game. They were on their own normal bench, but the Chicago Blackhawks were the ones using the Oilers locker room.
Which is so strange.
Just really bizarre, you know? And then,
is it their announcer too? Their in-rink announcer?
Yes, not for every game though. They're using, because I think like yesterday was game 20. Like I've shot 20 games in the last 12 days or whatever. I mean, or not even, I've been here 12 days, I think, or no, 13 days. But I think that was 20 games. In
so easy to lose track of time, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just insane.
It is. Like my my boss, Kara, yesterday when I walked in, she's got on a big whiteboard, today is Wednesday, August 5th. Because yeah, you lose track of time, lose track of days. I'm usually at the arena by about this time, 9 a.m. or so. And I like last night I got out of there at 1:30 in the morning. So, and it'll be similar tonight. They're long days, that's for sure. So it's a mental challenge as well. But yeah, the bubble is, I mean, it's bizarre, you know, to see all the little intricacies and things of, you know, there'll be guys from one team working out on your right, guys warming up playing soccer on your left, and another team walking down the middle coming from the practice rink to their locker room. And you know, it's all hockey, but again, we're in the playoffs, and it's just bizarre to see all these clubs and players under one roof, you know, really surreal. And, but yeah, I mean, I think the league and the PA, everybody has done such a great job, you know, with the restaurants, the small little things, the little amenities that they've, you know, been taken care of. And, really everything has been thought of, I think, you know, and as far as myself goes, like at an event like, you know, Stanley Cup and things like that, yeah, you have off days, and we'll have off days coming up, but so far it's been on from the moment I've arrived till now. There hasn't been a break, and all I've seen is the hotel and the arena. I've barely had any time to spend outside. So, you know, I'm busy. So I haven't noticed, to be honest, other than the fences when I'm walking back and forth, that I'm in a bubble. You know, it's just too busy for me right now. But I think I also have the benefit. I've worked on expedition ships for months at a time, and you know, you can't go anywhere when you're on a ship. So I have a lot more space in the bubble here than I did ever have on a ship. So I think once I do have some days off and some mornings off, you know, I'll be able to hang out outside and get to the gym and do some different things like that. We have a golf simulator and, as I say, the basketball courts and stuff. So there's things to keep you occupied, and I'd love to sleep for more than, you know, 6 hours if I could.
We were glad to help you with that, making you get up early this morning to talk to us. So I apologize for that. By the way, you were talking about your expedition ship stuff. Dave Sandford, SANDFORD.com is where you go if you want to check out Dave's nature photography, which is just stunning. Some of those images you have up there, you've been to Antarctica, you've been all over the world.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate. Photography has taken me everywhere. So whether it's been hockey or nature, so I'm stoked. It's best of both worlds in my opinion. So.
Well, I'll ask you one more question before I let you go actually take a nap, because you really should, because you've been up too much. Where does that Go ahead.
I have to go to physio. My back and neck are so jacked up from shooting. I'm in a little back catcher position, and I had a prior injury coming in. So that's, again, one of the things like the league is taken care of. The PA, brought in these physical trainers and everything. So they've set it up so I get to go see them in the morning. So that's what I do after this. I'm going to get adjusted so I can hope.
So you can shoot again. Oh,
yeah.
Man. Oh,
That's been the biggest challenge is honestly the physical challenge of shooting 3 games a day in that little position where you're crouched in there. And,
that just sounds, sounds miserable. Where does the Kadri photo rank with other hockey photos you've taken through the course of your career? Is it? I'm guessing it's toward the top, but you've been doing this forever. What's your favorite photo you've taken, and then where does that rank?
My favorite hockey photo that I've ever taken actually wasn't on the ice. It was off the ice, and it was when Wayne Gretzky played his last game in New York, and I was one of only a couple photographers that was in the locker room to get him hanging up his skates and jersey for the last time type thing. So him hanging up his skates for the final time in the locker room at Madison Square Garden, that I grew up a massive Gretzky fan, and I was fortunate to see him play a lot of his career in Edmonton and like shoot, for the last few years of it type thing. So that one for me, that was super special. And it's still my favorite hockey photo. But as far as the game action goes, that, the shot at the Kadri goal for sure. It's playoff hockey in a pandemic, in a bubble with no fans and 0.1 seconds left in the game. It will rank right up there for sure as one of my most memorable and coolest images, I think. For sure. It makes you think of other moments you've got in the past as well. And it's funny, like, you always want things to be better when you're a photographer. Like, I'll always find ways of where I'm like, I'm going to be the first to find flaws with any photo that I take. So there are things where I'm like, I wish this was like this or this was like that, just little things. But the other big thing is, like, I look at that and I'm like, that's my dream moment from a game-winning Stanley Cup goal, like a last minute or an overtime Stanley Cup winning goal, something like that. To have an image like that, for me, would be the ultimate, where a cup is hoisted right after that type thing. So, but still, I don't want to diminish what it is. It's, as I say, there's so many cool factors to that shot, and it's something that I'll cherish forever for sure. It's definitely right up there with one of my best. And it makes a big difference too. If that goal was scored a minute into the game, it's a great photo, but when you know the backstory to that photo, it makes it even better, I think.
Dave Sandford is the photographer who shot the photo of Nazem Kadri scoring that last-second goal against the St. Louis Blues for the Avalanche to get 2 points in the round-robin game. You can find him, davesandford.com, and on the Twitter, you're at Dave_Sandford, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, and people would, we're talking hockey, so people would see more hockey there. Yeah, for sure. And then on my Instagram, I have 2, but my one where I'm posting hockey stuff to is Sandford Pics, and that's PIX.
Got it. You are very, very generous to give us some time this morning. I hope the back stuff gets sorted out later on this morning. Dave Sandford, thank you. We will be right back.
Colorado is a sports state. The 9 News app puts all of our great stories in one place. From the pros to the preps, you'll find it all. Plus the latest Broncos update from insider Mike Quist. The 9 News app. Download it today.
Welcome back. So as promised before the break, we were going to try the whole Twitter see what happens thing. And as soon as we open this window, We had a guy with a Arnold Schwarzenegger soundboard hitting us up. We had another guy who just screamed profanities and had like a Mark Zuckerberg little like picture that popped up in the Zoom meeting, which was interesting. But I am told we actually have someone live. Matthew Downey is with us. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you, man, if I can figure out how to do that. Matthew, how are you?
Good. I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. Thank you for joining us and not being a troll.
Yeah.
I was nervous when we did this that potentially there was a chance we were going to get some QAnon folks who were going to yell and scream things, but this seems to be working all right now.
Yeah.
So did you watch the games, the last couple of games? What were your thoughts?
Yeah. So I've been watching him because of the blackout. My parents live in Iowa, so I've been Skyping with their TV and watching it.
Wait a minute. How does that work?
So my mom just set up like her iPod in front of one of the TVs in their house, or her iPad in front of the TV. And so it's Skyping, like looking at the TV. So I'm looking through my laptop through her iPad to the TV.
That is the most meta thing I think I've ever heard, but it's spectacular.
It works. Yeah, actually, like the quality is decent, and they just kind of set it up in their study and leave it alone.
So are they getting altitude, or are they just paying for a package?
No, so yeah, they've got like basic cable, so they get NBC Sports, so they can. But NBC Sports, is blacked out here. So
yeah, that's been the trick for a lot of people. A lot of people are figuring that out the hard way. That since Altitude has the contract, I believe, for the round robin. And for at least the first round, because typically in the playoffs it works that the first round, the local affiliate carries the games. That like the NBC Sports is blacked out for those of us who are around here and thinking like, oh, we can get it potentially. So what have you seen so far? And does it change the experience that you're like watching it through a video camera through somebody else's house?
I mean, yeah, it's like a little disconnected, but it's pretty good. And yeah, I mean, they look great. Last night they looked fantastic. So I think they're gonna go pretty far.
Yeah. So Matthew, how long have you been a fan? Are you from Iowa? And tell us your fan story.
So I'm from Denver. I grew up here, but then I moved to Iowa in the early 2000s. So I was here and I was born in 91. So when their first Stanley Cup, I was 5, so I was a little young for that. But then, they were good the entire 90s. So I just got really into it. And actually, so how I really got into hockey was when I was in 4th grade. That was the year that they had the All-Star game in Denver. And our elementary school had a drawing. One class got to go to the All-Star experience and go see the Stanley Cup and everything. And so that, I kind of knew what hockey was, but that was the first time our whole class got to go there for the day, and got to go take pictures with the Stanley Cup. And there weren't any players there, but it was just kind of this whole elaborate thing going on at the Pepsi Center. And that really got me into hockey. And then, I don't remember what year that was, but then the other cup in 2001. And so, yeah, I've been a huge fan.
So pardon my ignorance, because I was a fan of another team during that era and lived elsewhere. But that was the year before the Stanley Cup, Jeff? Is that right?
As I reach off camera and show off my All-Star game puck.
Oh, yes. I have one of those pucks.
It was the 2000-2001 season, so it was the same year.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. Oh, wow. I didn't realize that. So are you shocked? So speaking of the All-Star game, I keep thinking this would have been a good centralized location for a bubble city. And I'm really surprised that we weren't even in the running for this.
Yeah. I never heard anything about it, but I think just America in general is not doing so great. So
that's a very solid point. Yeah, that's a good
safer just to go to Canada and forget about us.
Yeah, true. And get those guys up there. But so you've been a fan that long. You moved away so what brought you back to Denver?
Our parents, my dad's job just moved us to Iowa, and we don't have any family connections there. So I always wanted to come back to Colorado. So after college, this is the only place I looked for a job. So I came back 5 years ago.
Very cool. Matthew, I cannot thank you enough for popping on and not being a troll. This has been a very interesting experience, and you should come on the show some other time. We would really appreciate it.
Happy to.
All right,
cool.
Matthew Downey, thank you very much. And I cut him off. Yeah, I'm
Now he's never coming back.
He could, as we used to say in the radio industry, he can hang up and listen. I know this person who is waiting to get into the conversation here, as our friend who sits next to us in the cheap seats, and I cannot believe we've not had him on the show yet. Christian, what's up?
Hey, can you guys hear me? Am I unmuted?
We can hear you.
Oh, good to finally be on. How are you guys doing?
Great. Yeah. It's good to hear your voice. It's kind of
good. It's good to hear you guys too.
It's kind of surprising that we haven't seen each other since what? When was the last time you? It was probably February, right?
Yeah,
probably. I went to the last game, the Avs Rangers, and it was a very ominous feeling. I even tweeted out. I was like, this could be the last game I attend for who knows how long. So it was a very ominous feeling being at that game. And of course, it was probably one of the best games of the year with Comper scoring that goal in OT and without McKinnon and without Rantanen. It was a crazy game and just showed how good this team really is.
So how did you go through the thought process of that? Because Jeff and I think we might have texted each other about this, but Jeff and I were talking about going and then we decided not to go. Like you talked about an ominous feeling. What did that feel like?
Well, I mean, I was thinking, I was with my girlfriend and we were talking about it, and it was really at the peak of COVID where there still wasn't a ton of information out. I really just, it was kind of selfish thinking about it. I was like, I don't know when another game's going to happen. And sure enough, as we're heading to the game, I get an ESPN notification saying that the NBA has paused their season. So I knew pretty much right that moment that the NHL was going to follow soon right after that. So it was a tough decision, but we decided to go for it. And luckily none of us have been sick. And it was really weird feeling going to the game because it kind of felt like we were doing something wrong, but we still went, even though in the grand scheme of things, we probably shouldn't have.
No, I mean, it was open. So you weren't doing anything wrong.
Right.
But it was in that weird period of like, what do we do? So going to that game with that in mind, what do you think about potentially next season? Do you think it happens?
I would love for it to happen. I don't know if it's going to. I just don't foresee a situation where we can have 18,000 people sitting so close to each other. I'm keeping my fingers crossed, but I personally don't think there's any chance.
Well, I just got an email from my ticket person the other day talking about, hey, just so you know, there's an opportunity. By the way, did you hear that email thing that just came across? You guys didn't. Okay,
no, I haven't checked yet. What's up?
I'm making sure my computer's not making stupid noises on the podcast. But she said something about like the select a seat thing is coming up, you know, where you can kind of change your inventory and change your seat that we've sat in the last few years, which I don't think we have any interest because I love those seats. But I'm just wondering, like, they're treating everything like it's going to happen, and that's good, you know. Wishful thinking.
I get from their point of view. There's so much logistics that go into it. I can see why you sort of have to proceed like it's going to up until the moment it doesn't. But I guess it is a weird feeling.
I guess I see that, but I also don't see that. I mean, I almost feel like you should be, like, you talk about logistics, like they should be trying to figure out what next season's going to look like and at least give somebody a reasonable idea. Christian, you're super plugged into this stuff. Have you heard anything about when the next season actually starts, since this is supposed to last for several months, right?
Yeah, so what I've heard so far, and who knows if it's true, it's just random people on Twitter talking, but I'm hearing like late November, early December start, kind of a lot like the NBA right now. Again, none of that's official, so I have no idea if any of that's true or not, but I mean, hopefully we got the Avs playing until late August, early September. So that'd be a quick turnaround. I know the off season, I can't remember when the draft's supposed to start, but it's pretty quick after the season ends.
Yeah. And when's the award? The awards are Eastern and Western Conference Finals. I mean, around that time.
I think so.
Yeah. They've got to crush a lot of stuff in.
I mean, it's good for hockey fans for viewers because it's a lot of stuff to watch. I mean, I've been watching hockey all day, every day. It's been pretty awesome so far.
Yeah. Christian, you feel free to hang with us here. I see somebody else coming in, and just to warn you, we may have to cut this segment out because we'll see what happens here.
Hey, no, it's all good. All good.
No. We'll keep your part in, but we have the magic of editing. This is a cat with a tie.
Which is why you admitted.
Cat with a tie looks professional enough. Are they going to yell at us? Hello. Hi.
Am I supposed to say something?
Yeah. This is
What's up?
What's up? Who is
How
this?
are you doing? Someone? I don't know.
All right. Cool.
A person. Am I supposed to turn on my camera as well? No?
Just going to go ahead and take care of that right now.
Good strategy.
Yeah, my years in live TV have made me nervous enough about randos.
Apologies if they were legitimately trying, but yeah, we can't take a risk.
It's just really kind of funny that, we don't have a phone screener, but there's really no way to screen stuff here. So
yeah, no, I don't think there is.
I thought I'd try it. I thought it'd be a fun thing. When I saw your name, I cannot tell you the ultimate relief I felt when I saw your name.
Well, I saw you guys pop up, and I was like, oh God, I got to get on. I got to see my guys. I haven't seen them in 4 or 5 months now.
I know. So. This is like a conversation we'd have seat to seat, man.
I know. It's weird. And I was texting my buddy Matt, who sits behind us, last night, watching the game, and holy cow, the team looked good last night. I couldn't even contain the smile on my face how good they looked last night.
Not that I want to jinx anything, so I'll knock on the wood again.
Yeah.
But if this is the year, can we talk about how strange that would, how much that would suck? If this is the year for us, we get access to tickets for a reasonable price. People could go to a parade and stuff. None of that would be able to happen.
Yeah, no, it'd be so weird, but so exciting at the same time. I think I'd be okay with it. I mean, we've all been Avs fans for a long time. I mean, I was a kid when we were really, really good. And the past 10 years, it hasn't really been super good Avs hockey. I would gladly take it, but the idea of not being able to see it live would kind of break my heart a little bit. But I think seeing Landeskog hold that cup would get rid of all those sorrows.
Yeah, and you know what? We could all use a distraction during these strange times, I guess, and that would be an awfully nice one. And I think this team is not built to just win one and then walk away. I think this team is at least going to compete for cups for years and years to go on.
Well, that's the scary part. You think about, we got Newhook, you got Timmins, you got Bo Byram coming. This team is loaded to go after a trade, to do anything. It's so exciting to be an Avs fan right now because you know that this is just the beginning. It's only going to keep getting better. Us as season ticket holders, we are in a pretty good spot right now.
Well, because our numbers are going to keep going up, right?
Yeah, no,
problem. That's the problem is that it was cheap when we got in, and I don't know how cheap it's going to be moving forward. But
we can keep our fingers crossed, though. We're thinking positive here.
By the way, you're into the sports betting stuff. How excited are you that you could do it now?
Oh, it's been dangerous for my wallet so far, but it is so cool to be able just to log onto an app and do it legally and not have to do it off those offshore accounts. It is so gosh darn cool to just open my DraftKings, and I've won big with the Avs so far because they just keep winning.
Should we call you Christian from the Cayman Islands from now on, just to make sure you don't get in trouble with the federal authorities?
Yeah, I think that's probably the best bet right now. But it's been awesome. I don't know if you guys saw my tweet. I got my little man cave set up now. I got 3 TVs in my man cave now, so I got full hockey coverage every day, all on 3 TVs. It's a good time.
Yeah, it's great. Christian, it is so good to hear from you, man. And you got to actually come on a show as our guest at some point. That'd be fun.
Yeah. Hey, let me know, guys. Happy to do it. Good to see your guys' face.
Good to see your name.
Yeah,
and
good
hear
to
your
see
voice.
You guys too. I'll talk to you guys later.
Take it easy.
I do need to cut in real quickly to point out for people who are just listening, not watching, but we actually have a chip sighting in your shot, which is super rare and very exciting.
He's probably doing this because he knows many people won't be watching. Most people will be listening to this, but Chip has appeared in the background of my camera here. So now I have two cats, one over each of my shoulder, Catrick Paw and Chip, or Catrick Paw and Chip. There we go. I should actually identify them correctly. Well, for an experiment, this worked.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
It did.
We got all the train wreck stuff out of the way before we were actually started.
Once I figured out how to set up a waiting room and sort out the people, I mean, other than the cat guy with the tie, who knows? That guy could have been legitimate, but
absolutely, and he'll never listen to the show again.
But I was gonna say we just lost a listener because when he's like, "Hey, let me turn my camera on," that's a warning sign.
I mean, we're what, 5 months into this whole thing now. If you don't have like a basic understanding of Zoom, then it's a little fishy.
We're into straight Howard Stern territory is where we're about to go with that, and I'm glad that we dumped out of it, showing that we are both decent radio producers as well. So you know how to get in touch with the show at 9 Cheap Seats on Twitter. We're also
think about that. It's been a while since
it's been a long time. And the email is cheapseats@9news.com. Right? Okay. It's been a long time. I cannot tell you how great it is to do this again, and how great it is to have a team who's playing this well. This could be an exciting couple of months, and we'll try to be here along with you along the way.
Definitely.
All right. From the spare bedroom in my house and from Jeff's kitchen table, thank you so much for listening. Remember, get in touch with us. We'd love to know who our next guest should be. We will see you next week.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of Steve Staeger and Geoff Sawtell, who have absolutely no business covering sports at all. They're just fans. You can tell them how wrong they are by tweeting at the show at 9cheapseats or email cheapseats@9news.com.